Deltarune is a really cool experiment, one that could potentially change the way video games are crowdfunded, one that encourages developers to make demos, a long-lost relic of the 90s. It's also a testament to fandoms, the power of word of mouth. I'll tell you for sure that I didn't expect to wake up one day and get a completely free 4-hour experience that was a bit of a sequel to one of my favorite games from 2015. Well, maybe a sequel. Some people say that it's an alternative universe. That's what I want to talk about in this video. What exactly is Deltarune? Those familiar with Undertale have been waiting for this for a while. Now, we may not have known exactly what we were waiting for, but fans of Toby Fox's 2015 RPG contemporary classic Undertale were itching to see whatever the hell was coming next. For those who haven't played Undertale, I have 2 words for you. Play it. Don't look anything up, don't take any recommendation besides do it, otherwise you'll be dampening your experience. This video is not gonna have any major Undertale spoilers, and I'm gonna try my best to refrain from any of the major Deltarune ones. So with that, yo, it's Austin, and here's my hot take on Deltarune. Deltarune is the demo EP of your friend's band. That's actually pretty good. And not just the music, although, I mean, damn, Toby crushed it again, especially with that booty poppin' battle theme. Memes aside, and trust me, there's a million memes out there, including one where sans Undertale and Nagitoku might sing and dance to Fingers in His Ass. The actual content of Undertale was rather wholesome and nice. Well, that is, unless you decide to go on a murderous rampage. Deltarune isn't a sequel in the normal sense, it's more of an evolution. Development started on this pretty much directly after Undertale finished, so it makes sense that Toby would move things in a different direction. One that actually subverted my own expectations and predictions as to what a follow-up could be. Undertale valued the player's choices quite a bit. Your experience could be radically different depending on which route you took. The tagline on Steam was Undertale, the role-playing game where you don't have to destroy anyone. After reading this, I wondered to myself what a game was, and also that with a tagline like that, of course we're gonna have different manners in which to approach things with different endings. A game encouraging me not to murder things means, hey, I should most definitely utilize that mechanic, or do the exact opposite. So when you boot up Deltarune by having to approve something my computer thought was a virus and launching an exe called survey_program, I was surprised to see that sense of choice thrown into the toilet right away. Well, I mean, maybe. It's too early to tell, but there was a character creator sequence. I put together my under OC, listening to this eerie music, fully awaiting some jump scare to pop out. Once I finished it, the game was like, that was nice. I'm gonna trash that now. Your choices don't matter, idiot. And I was like, yo, nice. Good one, Tobes. We take control of Kris, who, shocker, looks extremely similar to a specific character from the original game, and also the protagonist. Is this connected? Is it Chara? Is Deltarune a direct sequel to Undertale? Does it take place in an alternate dimension? Where is GASTER? But hold on now. We'll talk about theories in just a bit, you silly musky kids. Kris is a student in school. Your mom's Toriel and you oversleep a bunch. Azriel is your brother and he's off in college, dabbing or something. You're late to school, so you get partnered up with a crocodile girl named Susie who eats chalk. That's disgusting. Then you're sent on a teacher's errand before getting sucked into a mystical world where your skin changes colors and the video game begins, complete with a totally different UI and more detailed sprites. No more first-person combat, now we have a 3-player party system. You have Kris and Susie, of course, as well as Ralsei, the mysterious Prince of Darkness, who is a resident good boy owl thing. I like Ralsei, he's like a TV mom. Ralsei explains a prophecy that says a human and a monster would team up with the Dark Prince in order to become the Delta Warriors, in order to save the kingdom from the Darkners. It's all very vague, and I think this is done on purpose. Vague is the name of Toby Fox's game and writing, and it serves as an important role later on. Without spoiling anything, that's exactly what you do in this game. It's about fulfilling the prophecy and saving the world like a shonen anime or a young adult's novel. However, it's about the journey you undertake that really brings out the excellent parts of Deltarune. Oh yeah, if it's not obvious, I dig it, I like it, good job. So what's fresh here? Visually, it's about the same. It looks like an Undertale 1.5, which is totally fine. Raw graphical prowess was never the main appeal of Undertale, so why start now? The character design and overall aesthetic, however, is impressive and is consistent with what we've already seen. The music is, once again, top tier. After hearing the Undertale soundtrack, digging a bit, and finding his guest songs in other video games, I've decided that we should just have Toby Fox write every video game soundtrack. Just everyone. More than anything else Undertale and Deltarune offers, the music is what stands out to me the most. That's not to discount the other aspects of his works, it's just, well, the man's a freaking musical genius. He's what Ben Wyatt is to accounting to composition. Let the madman do his thing. Find weird motifs to throw around, alter existing songs in order to hide tracks within other tracks. As a music nerd, the Undertale soundtrack is actually one of the best. Deltarune is more of that. Much lower in quantity, but also more of that, so you know, good job. Combat has gotten a major rehaul. No longer are we Dragon Quested into combat, but instead we Chrono Trigger it up. Kris can still act in order to try and pacify enemies that appear, but your teammates cannot. They can only spare, which works when you have multiple enemies to deal with. A trio means the damage you take will be split between party members depending on who is targeted. It also means that certain actions can only be done by using another party member's turn. For instance, in order to win a mini-boss fight, you have to bow as a team, which eats Rousey's action for the turn. This works its way into the game's writing as well. Susie is one hell of a feisty, angsty teenage, I think, girl. For a majority of Deltarune, she doesn't want to listen to anything you say, meaning she'll always attack enemies. Figuring out how to make it through encounters as a pacifist with this loose cannon is pretty fun, and made individual encounters that much more unique and exciting. But similarly to Undertale, dodging enemy attacks is done like a shmup. If you're really good, you'll never take damage, so practice up. I mean, if you're playing this, you probably played the hell out of Undertale, so you know what's up. The story and writing is on par with the previous release, which is well expected. However, and this is my main point of the video, it's too early to tell. Deltarune is filled to the brim with personality and color. However, I just don't really know enough about these characters to feel completely satisfied with what could be potentially coming. I really enjoyed the setup. It was strong, if at times a bit much, but the truth is that Deltarune is a chapter 1 of a game that may be, apparently, 7 years out, depending on a million different factors. Delta ends with a cliffhanger and a to be continued, and the entire demo was so much longer than I thought it would be. It's an extremely gutsy, generous, and bold thing to release for free when Toby could have straight up released this as a $10 game, and it still would have sold a metric ton. But a free product with a cliffhanger is great for business and generating hype. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the art of the demo has kinda gone away in the last generation. However, Deltarune's existence, Undertale's success, and the fact that official merchandise exists for this goes to show how powerful the word of mouth and the hype machine can be. Even if a full version of this game is like 170 years away. Regardless, I still enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Though I do have a few nitpicks. I think the concept of pacifist versus genocide doesn't matter enough in this demo. I know the beginning is like, hey, you have no say in what's gonna happen. I never felt too bad about beating the crap out of things, nor did I feel too challenged by a pacifist run. Again, it's way too early to tell, but I just found it all a little too easy. I also made a good friend of mine really mad when he found out I beat the secret boss Jevil on my first try as a pacifist, but that sounds like more of a me problem. The other big thing is that I felt the inclusion of a majority of the Undertale characters were completely unnecessary. Toriel as your mom was fine, Alphys as the teacher was fine, but everyone else feels like an excuse to point at and be like, oh my god, why is he here? Especially because a lot of character interactions felt strange. The player and the main character seemed to have knowledge of the events of Undertale as, oh, also, spoilers. Having the ability to ask Undyne about Alphys doesn't really make sense. Why would this character who isn't Frisk even care enough to ask about her? It just felt like a dissonance between Deltarune as a standalone experience and more like a series of cameos for fan service. Which, hey, that's fine, but it's not really my bag. More of a tease as to what's to come, although I think revealing them in the full game a few years from now would have had a little more impact. But besides those two things, I've got nothing else to really complain about. It's good. You did a good job. So it's really early and kinda hard to tell, but now for the main point of the video, what do I think Deltarune is? What is Deltarune? Surfing forums and subreddits for any information on Deltarune will lead to hundreds of fan theories attempting to connect each and every piece together. Some weird mushroom in the background goes from being a weird mushroom in the background to a definite connection that explains Mad Mew Mew in the Switch version of Undertale. You know what? It's totally fine to have theories. I'm not gonna sit here and say anything against them, but we should probably let the game play out a little more first. We as a species and fandoms want to tear everything apart, peeling back any sense of ambiguity and mystery something might have. I personally think Deltarune was enjoyed most as a standalone experience, interpreting it as something that actually has nothing to do with Undertale at all besides similar looking characters. It's the whole reboot or different take phenomenon. Take Spider-Man. Don't click off, it'll make sense in a second. Every few years, someone else picks up the reins on the license. It's the same characters and the same basic personalities, but it's a different, unrelated story. There might be references and certain characters might be expanded on. Deltarune is the ultimate Spider-Man of video games. Undertale is, oh, I don't know, Amazing Spider-Man.
Shocker! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
However, Deltarune is only on its third issue, and it just went on hiatus for a bit, so for me, it's too early to judge it. However, you've all come for a theory, so screw it. Let me tell you what I think. The entirety of the events that transpire in the Dark World are a dream or playing pretend. Considering Azrael is in college and is also revealed to be Ralsei, anagrams. Ralsei is the only major connection between Undertale and Deltarune that appears in the Dark World, as a majority of what transpires there is standalone and separated from that world. Also, Azrael's last name is Dreamer, so, you know. When you finish in the Dark World, the only thing you have in your inventory are like a ball of junk, and if you got a new weapon, it's a different type of pencil. A Halloween pencil. The UI is completely different between the two worlds as well, which to me implies that it's possible for future installments to take place in completely different worlds, perhaps with different mechanics and aesthetics completely. That makes even more sense when you remember that you don't get any experience points by defeating enemies, meaning that, hey, maybe it's totally different. Think Persona 5 with the palaces containing, you know, the bad guys' cognitions. Perhaps next episode will have us entering someone else's dream. It's entirely possible that the teaser at the end wasn't a literal depiction of Chara trying to take control of Kris's body, but a little nod toward the outcomes possible in Deltarune. But my main angle here is that the lack of Undertale inside the Dark World, only really being present in the Light World, is that we have something entirely separate here. For being mentioned so many times and shown as a literal party member, yet being absent in reality, Azrael is likely, once again, the evil mastermind which supports my reboot theory. Maybe that's what's gonna happen. Maybe you're right on the nail. Or maybe Susie got high as shit after eating a bunch of chalk and forced Kris to pretend that he was a mighty hero, ingest a bunch of chalk, and try to save the world until she sobered up and they left. Oh, it's probably that. Also, Lancer is not Sans. Stop it. Whatever the outcome is, I'm pretty excited to see where Deltarune goes from here. It is the EP that your friend gives you of his band's music, and you're excited to see what's next once they get like a full production team and like an actual studio recording. But for now, I'm gonna lean on my theory that it's a reboot of Undertale and just be happy that we finally get another reboot of Earthbound. Finally. Yo, thank you so much for watching. Thank you very much to all my Patreon supporters, and big thanks to Jacoby Fitzpatrick, Neo Skunk, Flaming Fighter, Ronnie Vile, Superfly1787, Legend Gary, Space Heart, Christopher Olivia, and Jackets. Thank you guys all so much for your very generous donations. If you liked the video, then hey, watch some more or something. We got more coming soon. Also, if you want to watch me stream, I've been streaming regularly recently, which is pretty rad. We're about to be finished with Corpse Party, so if you want to do that, go to twitch.tv/Austin Eruption, and I'll catch you guys soon. Love you.